You know, there were these folks doing the dancing and so in some serious rituals that had to do with their beliefs, some for pleasure, some for leisure.
And because we are doing folk, it was always treated as if it's a stepchild, a bastard child.
In the context of Best Village, you couldn't teach classical. It has to be folk. Definition of folk is that area you represent, the way of life.
From 1964 to the early 70s were developmental years for folk expression in Best Village.
Everybody going along to Prime Minister's Best Village competition and decide. We making a better village.
Community concerts later became folk concerts. Farm and food became the popular food fair. Folk theatre and all the various expressions of folk dance originated as raw talent in communities and drum yards.
Best Village is the mother of culture, and persons fail to realize that. They are looking at it as things from the gutter, and it's not.
And to me, Best Village found its pride of place because what it did is that it created a situation where it took the culture and brought it on the stage. In other words, it showcased it to the country. And all this was now pieced together and put on a stage, put in a competition, showcased, and it made people feel really good about themselves and about practicing culture and art.
When you go abroad, they don't ask you for the matagrams. They want to see the ballet, the limbo, the shangu.
Everybody want to learn the ballet and the piqué. Well, limbo wasn't, you couldn't teach that.
Because it's not everybody could limbo. You could be as flexible as however, and you can limbo. It has something about it that make you a limboist.
The limbo is said to have been brought to the islands through the unpleasant transatlantic slave trade and has its origins in African funerary rituals.
Back in those days, it was mainly a funeral type of dance, and men were the ones who used to do limbo in those days.
In its authentic form, the bar was set from low to high.
So, for instance, someone passes and they have a wake. Somebody would come with a bamboo or a stick and they would start from the lowest. And once the person doesn't fall, who is going under the bar, that soul keep rising and rising, going to the ancestral palace.
When you take something that's traditional and you want to create a spectacle, sometimes you have to change around things a little bit. And I believe Julia Edwards was one of those persons who brought limbo into a club dance or show dance. So it was reversed, doing the highest bar to the lowest bar, and then they started doing apparatus with the bar and lighting the bars and that kind of thing to create a wow factor.
In the 1950s, before the birth of the Prime Minister's Best Village, the exotic skill of limbo dance was popularized by Trinidadian dance pioneer and innovator Julia Edwards.
The hell and back is so good. Dancers have it, especially a female dancer. That's why I didn't used to make joke with nobody.
Julia is said to have pioneered the human bar and, with her troupe, appeared internationally, featuring prominently in the blockbuster Fire Down Below, parts of which were filmed in Trinidad, starring Robert Mitchum and Rita Hayworth.
Limbo is the national dance of this country.
Limbo, as a skilled dance, was adopted into the Prime Minister's Best Village Trophy competition and over the years produced many skilled limboists.
just even finding out that I could have been was per chance. I was moonlighting with the Malay Folk Performance Senior Company, and it's in one of those rehearsals is where they were just taking the limbo bar further down, lower, and I kept up with the benders, and I was like, wait a minute, young Sabal, some.
Limbo, like other disciplines, is not all fun and folk. It has its fair share of work and perils.
Oh, well, with limbo, you have many challenges.
As a limboist, I have gotten bruise upon bruise upon bruise on my feet.
There are exercises that you do before.
How to prepare the body with regards to not injuring your back, not damaging your knees.
You could pull behind your calf, behind your leg. You know, you have to have strong abs. You know, you have to love your culture. You have to love what you're doing. When you come to the center, you're not coming to play. You're coming to learn. You're coming to participate. You have to have discipline most of all.
Under the vision and direction of researcher and anthropologist Dr. J.D. Elder and dancer-choreographer Aubrey Adams, several other folk dances were identified for preservation.
Aubrey Adams used to go around the country arranging lecture demonstration and training in the different fields by using the best that we have available in the country at that time. For example, people like Jean Coggins Simmons, Joyce Curtin, Torrance Mohammed, Carlton Francis, Molly Ahi, well, of course, myself. And being the only Indian dancer in the country at that time. And I had my group.
Dr. Prasad and his group would play a keen role in introducing Indian dance to the Best Village stage.
My group were the first Indian dancers to perform in Trinidad and Tobago. And they performed with Barataria. Unlike today, you have so many groups and all of that. People went afterwards on scholarships and study and return. At the beginning, that perception was there that it was an African thing because all you've seen is Africa. The bongo, the limbo, the shango, the pique, the bele. I am probably the person responsible to get the Indian aspect of this into Best Village. Villages already had singers. I didn't teach anybody any singing, no sir. They had natural singers, the chutney singers. I had to talk to them, explain to them, get them involved because this is Trinidad and Tobago.
In East Indian dances, we have some traditional dances such as the folk styles. Let's say the stick dance, also known as the dandiya, where you dance with the sticks.
Teach them simple folk dances, simple movements which will go. But then you need the music. Then you get the musicians to come into the picture using our local music, which is the drum called the dholak, then the harmonium or organ, and then the dhantal, which is the percussion.
Over time, the indigenous art forms gave way to modern expressions of Indian dance.
So these Bollywood dances, they don't represent Indian dance because they are totally westernized, right? But what is happening is everybody is seeing that. So that's what they're growing up and they say, oh, it's an Indian movie, so that's an Indian dance.
The film industry is in no way at all a representation of anything Indian or Oriental. It's an attempt to imitate Europe, America, and Michael Jackson.
Look at the moves. If you look at the moves and you go to a competition with that dance and you say you're doing an Indian dance and you have hip hop, dancehall, reggae, most of your moves are, what is that? The song is Indian. Sometimes the song is English, Hindi and English.
And if you are dancing or you are trained or you know anything about Indian dancing, you have to interpret the meaning of the song in mudras or hand gestures.
Traditional folk dances were not only influenced by foreign pop cultures, but our own cultural commingling.
I was asked to teach a chutney dance. You know, chutney is known as something vulgar, but it is not. But I taught them a local chutney song, and they came and they won that category. And I went laughing at my girls. I said, look at blows. Tobago come and blow all you out of the water.
That is wonderful. And even within the Tobago-ness, there are differences. The Charlottesville experience is not the Bethel experience. In Trinidad, the experience in Port of Spain would not be the experience in San Fernando and Point Forte and all of that. You know, so it's pulling all of this together. And in more recent years, is bringing, not the subcultures now, bringing ethnicities together, cultures together.
If you're into dance holistically. So there was always this exchange of traditions between the two islands because we are quite different in our folk tales and traditions.
I like dancing in general, but one of my favorite styles is the Congo ballet. And you won't believe it, because you know you have to turn around and bend over and you have to shake your bum. I like doing that. I still like doing that.
Hey, mama. When you hey, mama, you're trembling your foot and then come up to the man and the woman come up to the man. You know, you have to have your hand up there. The first year we go to Trinidad with the Congo dance. The audience, when the dance done, the audience stand up there.
And so in Pembroke, we had what you call a drum yard. Now, a drum yard, if I just explain it to you, is a little place in the back of your house. When you build your house, you have a little place that you roll and sweep, and so you put up a little tent and you do all your festival dancing and so there. When we went to Best Village the first time, because drumming in ritual is done where the drummer sits here and the dancers and everybody forms a circle, right? So we were dancing with our backs to the audience. Now, if anybody here know about Best Village, you know that's one of the no-nos. Even though we didn't place very high on our first event, they commented and they told us, well, you know, you have to present to the audience and so on and so on. So. But one of the things that they told us, they said, you all have brought some material to this place that we have never seen before.
The Congo ballet carry a particular type of posture. The rhythm, as any Afro-Caribbean rhythm, is very pulsating, very energetic. Unlike the ballet-influenced dance, where the dancer is more graceful and upward, Congo ballet is done in a knee bend position, flat back position.
While the Congo ballet is indigenous to Tobago, the popular Creole form of ballet takes its influence from the French West Indies.
Just recently, I was at home, you know, and I had a session in church I attend, and I want to do it. And just before I leave to go to church, I remember Papa George, and I started to move with my duet and sing, we need dance the ballet, we dance the ballet. I know we go dance the ballet, and a dance and a spin and a dance. I remember Papa George.
Vini danse belle, vini danse belle.
I know, vini danse belle.
Vini danse belle, vini danse belle.
I know, vini danse belle.
Vini danse belle is a tune composed by me too, but this one is asking the dancers to come and dance the ballet. You're asking them to come and dance the ballet, and you are showing off that you feel you could do it well, and you are showing up and asking people to come and dance the belly to show the audience how good they are.
Though not the creator of the various folk forms, Best Village as an institution certainly became the curator, a cultural mecca of expression. Community concert was introduced in 1964.
Saltfish price gone higher. People start to cry, what a pound they go hard to buy. But they out for pressure in meeting me as a buyer. Some of them go bald because I want this saltfish at all, if you hear me.
It wasn't my TV. I used to go and hang on a window by the neighbor because I couldn't be go inside. I used to hang in the window and peep through the thing. And I used to always want to see Daisy Voisin. There's Daisy Voisin. That was the first person that interested me, you know, got me interest in Best Village. A golden voice.
Este parandita, este paría, y venimos adorando al Hijo de María. Este parandita, este paría, y venimos adorando al Hijo de María.
It was an accident, you know, really an accident, because I remember us being in the Superior Self-Help Lodge, and we were experiencing some problems in having Mr. Molloy, I think it was his name, coming to practice because he was ill. So there was a key back because we could not get this parang item off the ground for the competition. And Miss Auntie Daisy, well, as we call her Auntie Daisy, said, Mr. Worrell, I will try. He said, Daisy, you could sing parang. Because she was in the choir. She was in the choir as a chorus person, not a lead singer. That was a blessing that happened to Trinidad and Tobago and the world. Because when she sang that night, everybody, dancers stopped dancing and everybody, what's going on here? Right? And the whole night went on with Daisy just singing. And that was the birth of Daisy.
Daisy Voisin marked the way for parang to achieve national visibility as parang bands started to become a fixture on the Christmas landscape.
In that 1989, it was folk theatre was introduced. Instead of folk concert, it moved to folk theatre.
Because the folk concerts were dealt with individual items, folk items, music, dance, drama. Whereas the folk theatre was a story, a production that told the story using the folk material. And it was a continuous program, not an item program, but a story from beginning, middle, and end.
The regular theatre was much more intense and precise, but the folk theatre, in my opinion, was much more dynamic. The music and the dances and even the drama was big.
And Barataria Community Council wanted to run around also the dry season.
Barataria was very successful for a number of years and won the coveted prize on at least 6 or 7 occasions.
The competition determined that you had to have a skit or a short play involving folk characters and carnival characters.
I started to look at a number of different areas, the steel band, calypso, the stick fighting. There's so much stuff in Trinidad and Tobago that needed to be explored. There started to be a very intense rivalry between the groups, yes, in the musical form, in the music theatre form. And this actually raised the standard. So much so that Merchant made a calypso one year Barataria sweet, but Mount Diablo sweeter. Of course, he got the names of the villages wrong, but it was a very popular calypso.
Barataria sweet, but Mount Diablo sweeter. They was the baddest, hardest that night up in
those days when Fuller and Malik would be in the Savannah or Barataria, it was a big thing. The Savannah was full, you know. It was really big.
You know you can't go to the Queen's Park Savannah with certain things because you will lose it. You will lose. You start losing. So we got to up the game. You dealing with Malik and Barataria and them people, brother. You can't go down there with, you know.
Backstage, the people of folk often recognized community over individuality.
When one village is going on stage and you have stage assistants, you'd go and help the village and wish them all the best, so that we had a bond, which was that somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose. But what we need to do is pace each other on the road to excellence. And once we can do that, so that I remember in '96, Friends Creative Theatre had just won the year before as the Arthur Lewis and the Out of Point 14. And we were challenging them. And Arthur was the person in the lighting booth, doing the lighting for Malik, and Malik came and won the competition.
Fertile with talent, the Best Village Folk Theatre category also encouraged directors, scriptwriters, and actors to compete for individual titles.
In 1974, Ronald Amoroso, who was the director of the Company of Players, but he was also the director of the Barataria Community Council, and he was going away on scholarship. And he left Cuthbert Panther from the Company of Players in charge. And Cuthbert Panther said, well, Fuller, why don't you come across and give us some help? When I went to London, I left him in charge. And I left him with a play which I had won the secondary school drama festival with QRC and so on. He had just won the drama festival with QRC, with Brothers 5. And we were putting it on the Best Village stage. So I said, Fuller, I could see myself. I was brother man. I hear the results. And the best actor, Novan Fullerton, brother man, Barataria. I never got so much boos in my life yet. Boo, boo. They stopped the show. I was in London waiting to hear that we had won. Never heard anything until I came back.
The Best Village competition suffered the curtailing effects of the COVID-19 pandemic between 2020 and 2022, amongst many other categories. The anticipated folk theatre was last held in 2019.
So as it stands, Northwest Laventille is still the title holders for Best Folk Theatre Production, that I was very fortunate, thank the heavens, for writing and directing. And the play dealt with political dissonance, the community's relationship with the politicians. The play dealt with the way in which the nation views these at potential risk communities. We had children that as small as 6. You hear what I'm saying? As small as 6. And people as old as 60. You're talking about 5, 6 generations of people dealing with the same issues, but in a different time, having the opportunity to unpack the issue in a play.
Because we're in the bush, in the country, almost, ours is a little different from Northwest Laventille and company, because they are being confronted with the ghetto and the gun and the police. So the players have that. We don't have that experience, so we deal with other things, which is the social topics, the incest and teenage pregnancy, and those things.
It's often stated that theatre mimics life, or at least draws inspiration from it.
When it comes to culture and arts and cultural practice, Laventille is one of those groups who have invested itself in the Best Village experience to the point where it is a part of them. And so when you hear Best Village, you hear Laventille, and it has to do with the way in which, more than the investment, but how they have used Best Village to transform narratives that are what we call counter-healthy to the way in which people see the community. And I am not from Laventille, I grew up in Bucco in Tobago. The passion that they have for cultural preservation through the Best Village is what I had searched for a long time as my reason for going to university and wanting to pursue theatre and carnival studies in a formal way.
A key element of the effective organization of Best Village was Best Village officers. Their role was to introduce communities in the program and getting them prepared for the competitions.
There are so much officers that work so hard that their efforts go unnoticed. There are some officers who don't even have transport. Sometimes all 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, they are there sitting in rehearsals trying to help their groups.
Especially in Tobago where, and I will always say rural, you had to go into that village or to that community and develop the community. And when you have an activity like Best Village, you thought it was an excellent opportunity.
Our role was really to bridge the community, to go out there, to help plan and assist in implementing and promoting the Best Village program in the different communities. And that in itself was multifaceted in that, you work with many groups of all types, whether it was a sporting group, a youth group, a church group, any type of group.
These stores of knowledge found in the language, foods, songs, dances, and rituals of everyday life are the key to understanding the role that the Prime Minister's Best Village Trophy competition plays in building resilience and cultural confidence in communities.
Best Village must continue.
They say Carnival is the greatest show on earth, but to me, Best Village is.
Best Village is one of the places where they get that grounding that takes it and seeds that culture all over the place.
We see, keep that village name, Best Village.
There are still people who don't consider Best Village to be real talent. But they're wrong. They're so wrong, it's funny.
If any government, and I say this with no apology, if any government should take Best Village serious, they would remain in the power till thy kingdom come.
Paul Entuchpringer and Janet Stanley Makano, I think they took out the smut out of Best Village. You go come with a posy and want to be the woman and beating the man with the posy and all, and people laughing and all kind of stupidness. They took it out.
So from Ikakas up to Mayaro, we and them fishing there just so they kidnap, jail and finding we, yet we still calling them amigo.
Oh, Mama, Salwater, Guinness, man, then you see me going down. You're not going down.
They were practicing for Best Village competition, and the drums were going and they were doing bamboo dancing and all of that stuff, and I was so amazed. I was like, I want to do this. I'm about 7.
If it wasn't Best Village, we wouldn't have the Marshall Matano and the singing Sandra and all these people. And don't talk about the golden voice Daisy Voze. So much years, people trying to be sung like her. Never.
The Best Village story has been a story of community vision, extraordinary talent, and a preserver of Trinidad and Tobago's culture and folk traditions. This is where generations come together to exchange ideas and celebrate our rich heritage. This is where we see all young people flourish. It takes a village to protect our heritage. I encourage you to be a part of the Prime Minister's Best Village experience. For more information, please visit the ministry's website at mscd.gov.tt or follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube for updates on Best Village activities. I am Shamfa Ashaki Kajo, your Minister of Sport and Community Development.